in this event. I also welcome our patron, Dr. G.P. Singh, and I thank all members of organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to be part of a symposium. I have no doubt about success of this symposium due to a experienced team and wish that this symposium will be significant for all of us. Thank you, Dr. Bazar.
Thank you very much, sir, for the blessings imparted by you in very sweetly and shortest manner. Now, in order to continue this inaugural session, I am happy to inform you that today is World Camel Day, and one of the big person in the field of diabetes research who has worked a lot on camel milk and related research work, Dr. R.P. Agarwal, is with us. He is the ex-principal and controller, senior professor and in charge of Diabetes Care Research Center, SP Medical College. At different national and international level, his research work is being presented and had been honored by Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, that is commonly known as JDRF, European Association for the Study of Diabetes, EASD, and International Physician Association. We all know from worldwide that his research on role of camel milk in diabetes is fantastic, and he has published more than 120 research papers in national and international journals of repute. And I am very happy to inform you that when we started some work on milk analysis, we were often used to take their help for the identification of different gene codes, etc. And he has worked a lot related with the camel milk and diabetes work. Recently, he has published one book released from IGI Global Publication USA, Handbook of Research on Health and Environment Benefits of Camel Product. And although I know that he is very busy throughout the day, even then he has accepted our invitation. And one thing I would like to also mention here, that the films produced by our institution on camel milk and research has been under his guidance, and we are really thankful to you, sir. With these words, I request you to kindly say a few words on this particular occasion of World Camel Day. Dr. R.P. Agarwal, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bhojak. Are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
Respected patron, Dr. G.P. Singh, our chief guest, Dr. Shahu, Director NRCC. This topic is a really very wonderful topic. We carried out some research work on camel milk and diabetes. I will highlight only few points about that. We carried out epidemiological studies, experimental studies, clinical studies, genetic studies, and proteomics. And interestingly, the camel milk contains 52 units of insulin, and hence we use in type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is insulin-dependent diabetes. When we give camel milk to that population, it substantially reduces the requirement of insulin, 60 to 70% reduction in the dose of insulin. And to the tune of 4 children out of 12 were without insulin. They were totally controlled on camel milk. This is the beauty of the camel milk. Then we carried out research on type 2 diabetes. Significantly reduces the requirement oral hypoglycemic drugs. It is maybe because of it decreases insulin resistance. There is one interesting community, that is Raika community. They judiciously use camel milk in their diet. And the prevalence of diabetes in that community is very negligible. That is 0.4% only. Otherwise, in the same lifestyle population, the prevalence is 5.8%. Then we carried out proteomic studies, and we isolated 13 proteins and 22 peptides similar to insulin-like molecules. and hence it is a really boon for type 1 diabetic patients. I wish all the success to the conference. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, uh, for your continuous encouragement and support given to not only to our institution, our group, but also to whole diabetes community. And you are well known for this. Now, in continuation of this process, I request Dr. S.K. Verma, sir, to please tell something about BIRC, Bikaner Interdisciplinary Research Consortium, which has been established at Dungar College by the efforts of Dr. G.P. Singh sir and Dr. Ravindra Mangal sir and myself in 2005. Dr. S.K. Verma, sir, please say something about BIRC.
Thank you, sir. With due respect to all dignitaries and honorable guests, I am Dr. S.K. Verma, going to present a brief note on concept, motives, and achievements of BIRC. BIRC stands for Bikaner Interdisciplinary Research Consortium. This interdisciplinary research consortium is first of its kind in institutions of Rajasthan. It was established in 2005 at our college, Government Dungar College, Bikaner, by its founder members, Dr. Narendra Bhojak, Dr. G.P. Singh, Dr. Ravindra Mangal, and late Dr. Suman Chandra Sharma ji. Its some of main motives are to develop a center of excellence in field of research and development, and to provide a common platform to scientists and academicians from different branches of science and technology, to develop interdisciplinary scientific approach in order to solve the problems, including regional and local industrial problems, and to investigate the potential utilization of desert land and resources, including identification of desert flora and fauna for the sustainable development. Also to develop novel and exotic composites and green technologies which are need of the present society, and to establish link with various research and development organizations and funding agencies for sponsored and contract research. So these were some of main objectives of BIRC. And also I would like to mention here some of major areas of research which are being completed or taken up at the level of BIRC. These are green composites and nanotechnology, contributed by Dr. Narendra Bhojak, Dr. Ravindra Mangal, Dr. G.P. Singh ji. Biodiversity and sustainable development, contributed by Dr. A.K. Sharma, Dr. Pratap Singh, Dr. M.C. Mali, Dr. Anil Arora, and Dr. Suman Lata Tripathi. The another area of research is experimental designing for learning by doing demonstrations, and the contributions are from Dr. Ravindra Mangal, Dr. G.P. Singh, Dr. Smita Sharma, and Dr. Umar Rathod. The next is ceramic technology and use of ceramic waste, and the contributions are from Dr. Shishir Sharma, Dr. B.L. Sharma, Dr. H.S. Bhandari, and Dr. Narendra Bhojak. Green extractions and their applications as pesticidal formulations. It was contributed by Dr. Meera Srivastav, Dr. Deepti Srivastav, and Dr. Narendra Bhojak. So these were some major areas of research at the level of BIRC. I would like to also mention here some of achievements of BIRC. More than 20 students presented their research work during the conferences, seminars, workshop, and few of them have been awarded also. Industrial collaboration has also been done, and it enriched our knowledge, but it not only enriched knowledge but also opened job avenues for students of this region. Green composites and learning by doing presented during EduFest Jaipur in 2017. It was well appreciated by Honorable Central Minister Sri Prakash Javadekar and Honorable Minister of Higher Education, State Government Rajasthan, Mrs. Kiran Maheshwari. green composites and learning by doing also presented and awarded as first prize during Suraj Mela 2017 that was organized by government of Rajasthan at Bikaner itself. So these were some of motives, achievements, and this was the concept of BIRC. Thank you everyone present here.
Thank you very much, Dr. S.K. Verma sir. I would also like to add here that due to the efforts of BIRC and Honorable Education Minister Shri Bhavan Singh Bhati ji, we have also established first Smart Science Lab at Govt Dungar College, where the experiments related with physics, chemistry, geology, botany are being carried out not only for the research students but mainly for the MSc students, and now we are also turning it into the UG students also. Now, because we are we were late slightly, so Dr. A. Sahu is with us, and I am very happy to inform you that Dr. Sahu is considered one of the legend in the field of different kinds of activities. And I'm really thankful, despite of the fact that he's the leader of one of the biggest research center of on Camel. He is very busy on World Camel Day, and even then he has accepted our invitation. And I would like to tell something about him. He is basically belonging to Odisha. He did his BBSc and Animal Husbandry in 1988 from Bhubaneswar, and then PhD from Indian Veterinary Research Institute, Ichatnagar, which is a very prestigious institute. He carried as head acting division of temperate animal husbandry, IVRI Mukteshwar 2006, and then also joined as head division of animal nutrition at Central Sheep and Wool Research Institute, Avinkanagar. He received Endeavour Research Fellowship 2009 by Endeavour Government of Australia to undertake postgraduate research at CERAR, UNICEF Adelaide. He has worked extensively in the field of animal nutrition and feeding, and his contribution in the field of neonatal calf, lab nutrition, rumen ecology, plant bioactives, therapeutic nutrition, interaction draws criticism, appreciation related with the nutrient environment interactions. To his repute, he is also the part of the team when delineated ICAR standard on nutrient requirements of animals and member Bureau of Indian Standards. Dr. Sahu has got more than 500 publications. Yes, I repeat, 500 publications, out of which 170 are in peer-reviewed research papers and 10 edited books. He is having H index of 22, I-10 index of 60, with a citation score of 2300. I again repeat, citation score of 2300. He received Best Research Award and International Research Leadership Award in 2019. He is considered as distinguished scientist in small ruminant nutrient. He is the fellow of Animal Nutrition Association, Indian Society of Sheep and Goat Production and Utilization, and he has also got the Lifetime Achievement Awards. We are really thankful to you, sir, being the director ICAR NRCC Bikaner. You are so busy, even then you have accepted our invitation. With these words, I request Dr. A. Sahu to enlighten us on this particular day, on World Camel Day. Please, sir.
Thank you, Narendra Bhajakji. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you, GP Singh sir, and the persons who are involved in this organizing such a beautiful event, World Camel Day. And I welcome Madam Krishna Adams and our RP Agrawal sir. It was a really nice occasion to work with Dr. Agrawal on diabetes. He has already briefed it. So the NRC Camel is meant for doing research on camel and started in 1984, 5th July. The World Camel Day, this is meant for definitely all you must knowing what for we are celebrating World Camel Day. This is definitely to think for the camel and also the camel rearers. So with these few words, should I start my presentation, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
I am sharing my screen.
Pardon me, sir?
I will be sharing my screen.
Okay, sir. Okay, please continue.
So to give importance to camel, definitely I try to emphasize that camel is a multi-utility animal, but my focus will be particularly with respect to camel, developing camel as dairy, because Dr. Agrawal, he will be talking about more of that relation to diabetes, and Madam, I think she will be delivering on camel diseases. I will focus little on diseases, more on dairy camel. So this is camel, a multi-utility animal, and it is for nutrition, it is for health and wellness of the human being. For that reason, camel considered a gift of Lord Shiva, and in Raika community, this is considered camel milk as a amrut of what Shiva has offered to them. So amongst all the animals, if we consider why a camel is a multi-utility animal, if you see, it is in army, it is for, that is Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan and Jai Vigyan. So in all the three aspects, camel has established its importance. And if you, not any single animal has such vast importance what camel is doing. And in Jai Vigyan, you can say camel is a storehouse of medicine. And this is a chart actually I prepared to emphasize that camel is a multi-utility animal. So you see, it is definitely earlier it was sheep of the desert. It is still the sheep of the desert. Now we are focusing on dairy, the milk, and in other countries outside India, they are focusing on milk and meat also. Then there is another angle, camel in therapeutics, that is milk. Urine is also having some importance. Then there are some miscellaneous areas, that is the fiber, camel fiber you can prepare. Yesterday we released a yoga mat prepared from camel fiber. Then the camel manure, which is also of a good value compared to cow dung. Then camel skin, you can prepare many items. Some I just here is, if somebody visited our museum, then they must have seen some of the camel items made from camel skin. Then camel bone after death. So this skin and bone, this is after death, and others we can harvest during its lifetime. So camel, even during its living stage or after death, camel is serving the humankind with its multi-utility aspects. Then another angle, one is actually, as I was emphasizing dairy, another angle is, this is ecotourism. Here we can, you know how camel is helping ecotourism, where the people who are keeping camel, they are going for safari, they are in desert, even in sea, they are being utilized. The national security I already have told. Then another two angles which I just try to give a little hints, that is camel being a animal of the desert, being it a arid desert, arid hot desert or arid cold desert. So the climate resilient research, because of the climate change, what is happening, and camel is the most resistant animal. And if you can find why camel is able to resist these extreme climates, then definitely that you can study in other animals. So this is a climate resilient research purpose animal. So in biomedical research, this has applications like now camel in therapeutics. That is one angle. Another angle is camel. The serum of camel or the blood of camel has another angle where, like say, we are preparing toxide, we are preparing anti-snake venom. So camel blood can also help in this. Similarly, now for corona vaccines, we are utilizing other serum, other species serum, particularly horse and pig. So in that case, camel proved to be a better animal compared to equines. This some initial research findings has established this thing. Then why we think of camel as dairy animals? This is one area just I wanted to show you. You see the population decline in India. This is a really grave situation where the compared to African regions in India and then Asia regions, India itself has a major decline. And you see the population decline, particularly in Rajasthan, it is 35%. And Haryana, UP, they are having bigger population. So but there is a drastic decline. And in Gujarat, there is decline, but it is nearly less than 10%. So the reason I will give you in another slide. That is, but one positive thing is amongst the population, the male are declining drastically compared to the female. The reason being, you see here, female are 20% and male are 56%. The reason being, camel established its importance as dairy animals, and the female camel, they are used as dairy animals. And if you see, analyze the data, population data, then you see the population has increased. The milk animal population, percentage population has increased from 12 to nearly 18%. And here the figure you see, world camel population is increasing, but unfortunately, the India's camel population is declining. So in the next slide, I will show you why it is declining. It is means when the Rajasthan governments introduced this prohibition of slaughter and regulation of temporary migration or export bill in 2015. From 2015 onwards, you see the highest bid received for selling of camel, 25,000 to now it is 3,500. So this is a precarious situation, and this is the bill is introduced with an aim that camel should not be slaughtered, camel should not be smuggled. But unless we encourage selling of camel, we cannot expect that the population will increase. And the population decline of male gives the report card, that is a 56% decline in male population, because the farmers, they are thinking that male has no utility. But we have to establish camel as a multi-utility animal. Then another figure, this is down to earth published. You see the population of camels in Rajasthan. There has been 54% fall from 1998 to 2012. And if you include 2019, then the fall is from 1990 to 98, it is a drastic fall. And some of the regions are loss of commons. This is one. But the principal reason is if you cannot sell camel, here camel sold in Pushkar have halved since 2013-14. So what does it mean? Means the takers are not there, because only if you think that camel will be sold inside Rajasthan, then it is a difficult proposition. So government needs to think in this line and revisit the law and give some easy emphasis for selling the camel. Then as I told, why we develop camel-age dairy animals. You see, the total camel population is only, this is 2.5 lakh. Female camel population is this. So on that basis, the scope for use of camel, we require this much 32 million liter per day. And for 32 million liter per day, presently we are, you see, only 180 liters per dairy camel. So we have to increase that to nearly 1,000. Then only we will achieve this target. So demand is there. And Dr. Agrawal will agree, the diabetic population is increasing. And to meet the diabetic population, to cure the diabetic patients with camel milk only needs this much amount. So that is one angle why we rear camel as as a dairy animal. And some properties, if you see here, then definitely that emphasize why camel is means why camel milk, why not other milk compared to cattle. You see the properties in camel milk. It has low lactose, low in fat, easy to digest, high in iron, high in vitamin C, high in antioxidants, immune boosting, and high in protein. These are some of the properties which boost camel-age to go for camel milk for health and diseases. So then another angle, as I told, the camel has low fats, but the immunoglobulins, similarly, one Dr. Agrawal has emphasized that it has more insulin also than the polyunsaturated fatty acids content. It is 4 times, nearly 4 times higher than the cattle. So PUFA, which is considered as a healthy fatty acids, and it is also for cardiac problems patients or regulating blood pressure. So the immunoglobulin properties, PUFA properties, and also the insulin properties, this emphasizes camel milk is different from other species. And then another angle I will cover in the next slide. You see, camel milk has an important role so far as essential nutrients found in bovine milk. It contains higher than that. In India, Russia, and Sudan, the fermented camel milk has been used throughout the world, particularly the diseases like diabetes, tuberculosis, dropsy, jaundice, asthma, leishmaniasis, Kala-Azar. So many diseases are being cured through camel milk. This is one angle. The milk production potential. It is unfortunately in India, the camel milk production potential is very, very low. And but there are some promise, particularly with respect to the Kutch breed. Kutch breed is having a highest production potential amongst the 4 breeds we analyze, particularly Kutch down the trend, then Jaisalmer, then Mewari, then our own at Rajasthan Bikaner. And amongst the population, the breeds, Bikaner is having highest population, then comes Jaisalmer. So our focus should be to improve dairy production potential of Bikaner breeds. This is some of the data just I wanted to show. What is why there is potential? Kutch, I told, Kutch has very good potential. The lactation length is very good, and the average milk production, you see, it is even in our farm we are achieving nearly 6. So, but the Bikaner breed is 3.6. So we have to increase this potential to nearly say 5. Then only we can say and the peak milk yield is there is 10. So there is every chance that we can develop these breeds into dairy type camel. Then some of the properties of camel, particularly with respect to, if you see the protein, the casein is the major protein in camel milk, which constitutes nearly 80%. The beta casein is the main camel milk casein, followed by alpha casein, constituents about 65% and then 21%. Then with 36% and 38% in bovine milk in respective. So beta casein, which is the main constituents in this case, is of importance. Then whey proteins are also second main component of camel milk proteins and constitute 20 to 25%. In bovine milk, whey protein beta lactoglobulin is the main component. Alpha lactoglobulin is the second component. Whereas in camel milk, beta lactoglobulin is deficient and alpha lactoglobulin is the main component. So this is the reason why camel is having some immunogenic property. Another angle, particularly the immunoglobulins that I will describe. Then why also contains serum albumin, lactoferrin, immunoglobulins, peptidoglycan, and there is the camel whey proteins are more heat stable than cow milk whey protein. So these are some of the advantage of camel milk protein over other species of particularly our cow milk. Then some of the bioactive milk components and their potential application in health protection. If you see, this is the bioactive milk components and where means what not it is contributing. You see, weight management, bone health, heart health, then your dental health, digestive health, and immune defense. Now all these camel milk bioactive components have a significant role. So the camel milk cannot be sold at the price of cow milk or other species milk. It has a definite role, and it is I used to term camel as the storehouse of medicine, and camel milk is the medicine store. Then you see the mineral content, and camel milk, particularly if you test it, then it is little bit salty. The reason being it has more mineral content compared to others, but a rich source of sodium, potassium, iron, copper, and manganese. So that is actually separate camel milk from other milk, and also a rich source of vitamin C. In this corona epidemic, the one of the prescription contains vitamin C. So this is one. Then it also contains zinc, and these are the other components. You see the cobalamins, riboflavin, vitamin A, ascorbic acid, thiamine, pyridoxine. This is the camel milk is rich in those contents. Then another component, that is lysozyme concentration, is also high, which actually it provide camel milk as antioxidant capacity. So antioxidant capacity in any stress, whether it is disease or your work stress, there will be decrease in antioxidant capacity of anybody, or there will be oxidative stress to the human being or animal. So component, the lysozyme concentration is there, which provides antioxidant capacity, and camel milk is rich in antioxidants because of vitamin C and vitamin A, and also the lysozyme content. Then camel milk, you can use it as nutraceuticals. These are some of the reasons. As I told earlier, dropsy, jaundice, tuberculosis, asthma, leishmaniasis, Kala-Azar, camel milk is being used. So as a nutraceuticals, we should use camel milk, not as a camel milk in tea, camel milk in coffee, not like that. We should use camel milk as a healthy drink or as a medicinal drink. Then potential health benefits through number of bioactive components. That slide I saw, where means what is not left is I think it covers all diseases because of this immunogenic property and bioactive components. That is suitable for people who are lactose intolerant. You must be knowing many people, they cannot take milk, and particularly the newborn, they also show some allergy to mother's milk, even cow milk, buffalo milk, like that. So in that case, we used to advise them to go for, say, goat milk. But the camel milk is even better than the goat milk because it is less low concentration of lactose, and also the protein is that beta-lactoglobulin is deficient, so it provides less allergy, and so lactose intolerant people, they can use it camel milk as direct or as a probiotic drink. Then the angle I emphasized earlier, that is in gut inflammation, because of this allergy, there will be gut inflammation, and camel milk has a role as probiotics or nutraceuticals, where it has fructooligosaccharides, it has a lactose, some amount of lactose, and these acts as prebiotics, and the probiotic effect is there. So the pre and pro, it gives a symbiotic effect, or in other words, it used as nutraceuticals, and it modulates gut microbiota and gives good GI health, gastrointestinal health. Then this is one enzyme which is there in camel milk, and enzyme inhibitory activity, angiotensin 1 converting enzyme inhibitory activity. It provides the antioxidant capacity, as I told earlier, and also before and after the antioxidant activity we measured in these 4 bits. You see, before fermentation, after fermentation, the antioxidant activity is increased, and this is because of this angiotensin 1 converting enzyme activity of this camel milk. Then hypocholesterolemic effect. This is the fermented camel milk contains the bifidobacterium lactis. This is a probiotics which actually acts against the hypoglycemic effect. Then hypoglycemic effects, I need not to elaborate on this aspect because Dr. Agrawal, we worked with him, and he will elaborate on this aspect. This is the mechanism how actually camel milk helps in regulating type 2 diabetes and even type 1 diabetes. Then the antimicrobial effects. Here, the various bioactive components, including immunoglobulins, lactoferrin, have shown antiviral activity against rotavirus, coronavirus, ortho and paramyxovirus, hepatitis C virus. So, because of this immunogenic activity, and one slide I just forgot, I think, that is camel immunoglobulins are termed as nanobodies. The reason being, so far as camel immunoglobulins and human immunoglobulins concerned, they are similar, but the size of camel immunoglobulins are 1/10 the size of the human immunoglobulins. Because of that, these can pass through the targeted sites, and we can use them as nanobodies. Because for that small size, they are nano. So that is the reason why camel immunoglobulin is of importance, and this is now have potential application in biomedical research. When camel milk is reported in antimicrobial effect against E. coli, monocytogenes, Staphylococcus salmonella, and against E. coli and salmonella means it is half of the disease elements, particularly with respect to gastrointestinal problems, will be cured by this antimicrobial effect of camel milk. Then there is inhibitory activity, may be attributed to presence of this, as I told, lysozyme, hydrogen peroxide, lactoferrin, lactoperoxidase, and immunoglobulins. Then hypoallergenic effect, this I told you, the hypoallergenic effect is because of low lactose, low protein content, and also the deficit beta-lactoglobulin. Then the role of camel milk in tuberculosis. This is also, we worked with SP Medical College, Bikaner, and we found that the increased zinc and iron content. I told zinc is also a recommended post-curative medicines for corona. So zinc deficit, and overall, the Indian the mapping of India through, so far as mineral concentration is concerned, the India is deficit of zinc. So we need to supplement zinc, particularly when there is some diseases like immunocompromising diseases, corona even. Then anti-cancerous activity, This is also, it has role in anti-cancer and it has particularly genotoxic and cytotoxic effects it has. And some of the study, they emphasize that camel milk lactoferrin reduces proliferation of colorectal cancer cells. Similarly, camel milk in mice, they studied the anti-genotoxic and anti-cytotoxic effect. Then another important disease is that is autism. In autism, the camel milk is proved to be a boon to the patients. Particularly autism means this is a neuropathic disorder where the nervous system is not properly developed or brain is not properly developed. And through, if you continuously administer camel milk to the children, if they will consume continuously, then there is chance that they will get rid of these problems. This is again. Then assessment of autistic children. This is a study we did. You see the number of children, then pre-treatment score, post-treatment score, then improvement, then percent improvement. You see this much percent improvement is there when total number of children, 108 children, they are being investigated and we found a significant improvement in the autistic cases. Bioactive peptides, this is 0, 5, and 10 kilodalton. So they are, you can prepare those bioactive peptides, whatever they are in the camel milk, or the camel milk itself contains many bioactive peptides. That slide I have already shown. And compared to, you see cow, buffalo, mare, and goat, you see the camel milk is predominant. It has more bioactive compounds compared to others. We are from 0 to 5 kilodaltons, also rich in bioactive, then more than 5 to 10. It is also rich in, the camel milk is rich in bioactive peptides. Then what products we can prepare out of this camel milk? These are some of the products. So not only camel milk, the products can also give another area of avenue or another avenue where people can sell milk and also prepare some of the products and sell to the consumers. And these are some of the products at NRCC we prepared, and there means taste-wise, you can say camel milk products is definitely different than the other products, and it has a unique taste compared to, and at the same time, it provides you health benefits. Then the unfortunate thing is the milk marketing in India is not established yet. So that is the reason why the camel rearers, they are not getting enough from dairy camel. Otherwise, the dairy industry based on camel will definitely have a chance to improve. All the importance I have already described. So this is the one thing where particularly at milk collection centers, so there should be processing plant. So after processing, then camel can be marketed. And the best processing and best marketing is if you prepare camel milk to freeze-dried powder, then this can go to far-off places in all over India. Then just since today Dungar College is focusing on camel health and diseases, these are some of the diseases I try to just give emphasis. Camel is generally considered a resistant animal and suffers only few diseases compared to other livestock species. But these are some of the diseases. Camel pox, along with IVRE, this is we found out. But contagious eczema, this is a major disease of concern, which causing economic loss. Then these two diseases, they are also zoonotic, brucellosis and tuberculosis. So this is where we need to be careful. Then lymphadenitis, cholelacilliosis, trypanosomiasis. This is one which actually giving economic loss, even death of the camel because of trypanosomiasis. Then echinococcus, mange, dermatomycosis. Mange, dermatomycosis, trypanosomiasis, and contagious eczema. These are all related to skin diseases. So camel suffers from one important disease, that is skin disease. All other diseases are of less importance so far as camel survival is concerned. So our main focus is how to treat particularly the skin diseases in camel, and the research and development of vaccine against major diseases such as trypanosomiasis, camel pox, tuberculosis, and brucellosis needs priority. And camel pox, it is similar to cowpox, and so the vaccine or the treatment for cowpox is also means work for camel pox, that along with IVRA we could establish. Then coming to the skin diseases, particularly the dermatomycosis, because of dry climate, the camel skin always becomes dry. So particularly during summer season, dryness increase manifold. So during that period, any injury or anything, it attracts fungus. So there will be fungal infection. And some of the easy treatments which we emphasize, one is systemic antifungal treatments, another is topical antifungal treatments. Here for systemic, like particularly small animals like cat and dog, we used to go for more doses, but for large animals, degradation for 7.5 to 10 mg per kg body weight twice daily work better. Similarly, the age-old derivatives can also work, particularly that ketoazole. And for our in human case, for dandruffs, and for dog and cat, we use the ketoazole combinations for treating for washing the body. So in this also systemic is there, but at the same time also you can go for topical applications like eniliconazole, then 2% miconazole and chlorhexidine, sodium hypochlorite solution washing. These are some of the topical antifungal treatments. But the easiest foremost level management is one can go for pulse millet 4, because this is the floor available. This is the pulse millet the big Rajasthan people, they used to harvest, and add common salt 1:1, then apply this floor to the body. So this is one way of treatment. Another is here, the Rajasthan is also famous for producing rapeseed. So mustard oil and sulfur, if you have a 1:10 combinations, then it will also work better. And NRCC, you got patent for sulfur and mustard oil preparation and treatment of camel diseases. Then any oil you can use, not only mustard, but any oil. Definitely mustard helps better. This is some oil also. Then sulfur for scarange oil, this also like sulfur for mustard oil, sulfur for scarange oil, so you can go for. So I just elaborate in this angle, and Dungar College people, they must be managing or doing more on this line. Then what I said our institute can offer. So here some of the, as I told, we have 4 germplasm. So that Bikaner, Jaisalmer, Kachi and Magari. So we are maintaining this. We have studied the adaptive physiology and thermotolerance, drought power ability, and NRCC also improves, have some packaging practices for semi-intensive extensive production system. And we act for reproduction, even through nutritional and managemental interventions. We could reduce the age of maturity by 1 year. So that is a big thing. So the NRCC did this. And then camel milk is useful commodity of human health. I told you many products we developed. So processing technology and value addition as a functional camel milk products. Then definitely capacity building. We are giving specialized training to trainers and mid-level technicians, also to farmers. Then, as I told, we have developed a yoga mat. Similarly, the institute is focusing on preparing handicrafts from camel camel fiber, amalgamating with seafood. So this is another angle. The NRCC will help in developments, research and development camel. This is the camel dairy. means I invite all of you to visit so that we'll show you. This is our. We are also establishing a camel dairy here, so that camel can be promoted as dairy animals. Thank you very much. This is so. Lastly, drink camel milk and save the camel. And these are the breeds which you need to focus on for dairy camel. And last one, the camel at double hump camel at Ladakh, Leh Ladakh regions. They also needs to be protected because they are providing much help to the BSF people in guiding and transporting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sahu, for enlightening us from so many things. I can highlight more than 15 points from your this extraordinary presentation. But even then, I would, because we are running very short of time, so
Yes, sir.
even then, I would like to mention two things which are very important. We are really thankful that you have offered so many things at your place, and that will be definitely helpful for our students who can actively go and participate and see the research work being carried out there. And secondly, you have mentioned the patent part, that is sulfur in mustard oil and other things. This is fantastic, sir, because this is the determination of sulfur is one of the big problem. In fact, we were working on one particular project of analysis of sulfur in coal, which was not confined up to the mark. And these things I think definitely helpful for all of us, and we are really thankful to you. Now we are at the final part of the inaugural session. And just after that, Christina Adams, who is the author of Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious Words of Camel. And she has done a lot of things related with camel. So I'll be describing about her later on when she'll be speaking keynote address just after 5 minutes. And before that, I would like to announce that since we are late by around 30 minutes or so, so that was the time of quiz. So we have delayed it by 20 minutes. So whosoever students, participants who are interested to participate in the quiz, they can now log in, and that is open at your Google link. And it will, previously it was decided that it will work up to 9:40. Now it will be extended up to 9:55. So you can work up to 9:55 till the Christina Adams lecture will go on. Now for the presidential address, before I invite Dr. GP Singh sir, who is the patron and principal of our institution, patron for this web symposium, I would like to mention two things about Dr. GP Singh, although we all are knowing well about him, but two things are very important, which may not be known to even persons from our vicinity. One thing is that it looks that he has worked a lot on academics and management part, but he has been one of the extraordinary researcher right from his post-graduation side, which he did from the JNV University, Jodhpur. He has been associated and one of the pillar of the Bikaner Interdisciplinary Research Consortium. When we started to work on the green composite, actually he was the person who came with the various plants on which we were not thinking. Initially, I was not knowing about any plant. He decided to bring various plants there, and then we could able to materialize. Now, under his flagship, our institution has got 3 times A grade by UGC NEC, and recently this year, it was very tough to get, but even then his mentorship and leadership could able to get this A grade for us. And he is the overall coordinator for PTET. You may be surprised to know that the participants who are from joining us from worldwide, as far as I could able to know that so far from the data, more than 350 participants are registered and participating on YouTube as well as on this Zoom platform, and from 8 countries are there. They all should know that Dr. GP Singh sir is the coordinator PTET, and they are organizing the entrance exam for more than 5 lakh students, which is extraordinary part. And then he is also relating all these things with the composite and the research activities. Not speaking too much because of restriction of time, I would request Dr. GP Singh sir to make his remarks as presidential address and guide us about this. Dr. GP Singh sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bhojak. Good morning to all who are with us to celebrate the International Camel Day in the form of a web symposium. I especially welcome Dr. A. Sahu, Director, NRCC, Chief Guest of today's program, Dr. R.P. Agrawal, Guest of Honor, ex-Principal SP Medical College, Bikaner, and keynote speaker, Christina Adam, a noted researcher on camel milk and many more aspects. Dr. Rakesh Hars, the chairperson of the event, Dr. A.K. Yadav, Dr. Ravindra Mangal sir, Dr. Meera Srivastav, and all BIRC members and researchers who are with us to celebrate the International Camel Day and enjoy the current web symposium. I must tell all the viewers that BIRC founded in the year 2005 has played a vital role in the recent E-grade of the college. In fact, a new aspect introduced by the UGC team, best practices, where most of the score was possible due to the work of BIRC. So I congratulate on this occasion the team BIRC for that too. One of the major research which draw attention of the neck peer team too was the green composite, that is the reduction of plasticity, which is a major problem of today's world. And another one is the laboratory wastewater neutralization plant in our chemistry lab. I tell you, the two angles are clear-cut working in our college, and the two concepts are internationally recognized through research papers and publications. Now, this symposium, I tell you, will certainly open a new era of research in the college with the help of the NRCC team, Dr. Agrawal, and the international scientists which are with us today, will certainly help to inculcate a scientific temper in our young scientists to work more and more things on the camel. Camel, as you know, is a very useful animal, and main thing is this particular animal can survive in the harsh conditions of the desert. And I think this point has stimulated the scientific mind to think over the gene which is in camel, and with the advancement of the genetic engineering, more and more breeding, new and new varieties of camel are being developed, are being generated, are being produced, are being given by the scientific community to the society. As I told you, in all countries, especially where desert is there, the camel is used for transportation, for dairy purpose, and many more local economic activities. And those economic activities are possible only if we work more and more on this particular animal. The advancement in the field of genetic engineering is a special concern at this stage, I would like to say. So the technical deliberations in this symposium will certainly help to stimulate into the mind of the young researchers to work in that particular field. As you all know, in the Middle East, the camel racing is a very popular art, and from there also the most of the research works at international platform are funded to develop the best possible outcome out of the scientific thought. In the end, I hope the symposium will certainly inculcate new scientific temper among young scientists to work in this field, which in turn will be proved as an economic breakthrough for those people. I once again congratulate all team members of BIRC and Dungar College in particular, and I welcome Krishna Adam, who has joined us, spared time for the college, Dr. Sahu and Dr. Agrawal, who are with us and are joining in this particular symposium. So once again, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us from your views on Camel as well as blessings us on BIRC activities. Now, formally, I convey my best wishes and regard to Dr. A. Sahu, Dr. R.P. Agarwal, sir, Dr. G.P. Singh, sir, Dr. A.K. Yadav, sir, and Dr. Rakesh, sir, and all dignitaries who have joined us here in the inaugural session. And simultaneously, because not wasting too much time here, we are just going to start the keynote address of Christina Adams. But at the same time, I would like to inform to participant that because there is some delay in the program schedule of inaugural session, so quiz session is still going on. You can submit it up to 9:55. So now, before I invite Christina Adams for their valuable thoughts, thinking, work done on Camel and related aspect, I would like to say a few words about the Christina Adam. She is the author of Camel Crazy, a quest for miracles in the mysterious words of camels, which won a Netullius Book Award, and A Real Boy, a true story of autism, early intervention and recovery. I would like to emphasize that her research work is not only related with the lab, but she has converted whole of his vicinity into a lab where she is not only experimenting, but she is also surveying and elaborating the things. Her work has been appreciated in LA Times, Washington Post, which are considered one of the best selling newspapers, NPR, OGY, Orange Coast Magazine, Ravishly, Open Democracy, Global Advances in Health and Medicine, the anthology Heroics, Women's Experience in the Pandemic, literary magazines, and many more. She has been featured by CBS San Diego, NPR, the Public Library of Science DNA blog, Dubai One, Gulf News, Khalij Times, and many others. More interesting is that she has an MFA in creative writing and she is the winner of Dr. V. Korean Award of Excellence in Dairy Farming Practices and Innovation and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Shri Ram Singh Memorial Animal Welfare. And this is also very nice to notice that she is also associated uh, with the Indian community and working a lot on camel studies. Basically, she's a camel researcher, author, journalist, and whatnot. Today, she is going to enlighten us on a global perspective on pastoralist value to biodiversity. Not taking too much time, I request Christina Adams to please deliver your keynote address. Christina, and please.
Thank you very, very much. I hope that everyone can hear me. Is our audio good?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. So I would really like to extend my gratitude for being included in this amazing consortium of talent and intellect here at the Dungar College today. It's tonight for me and it's tomorrow morning, your morning for you. And my wonderful gratitude to you all. So Dr. Singh, thank you so much. And Dr. Bojak for your coordination and facilitation. Dr. Sahu, your presentation was really, really interesting. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Agarwal in person. So it was wonderful to see him here today. And of course, Abdul Shahid, who I am going to be so proud to present our joint film project after this discussion. So thank you very much. And I will start sharing my screen. Okay. All right. Okay, so the title of my presentation is A Global Perspective on Pastoralist Value to Biodiversity. And I actually, minimize that. Okay, it's actually, of course, part of this symposium on camel and disease control. And of course, you know that we're associated here tonight with Dungar College in Bikaner, Rajasthan, which is an amazing place. I have yet to visit in person, but I have always been very interested in what goes on there. And it is a great honor for me to be here with you today on World Camel Day, June 22nd, 2021. So I would like to start by kind of taking the big picture here. Now, one of the things about being a writer that I have learned, and also I'm pretty close to Los Angeles, which of course is like Hollywood and very similar to Bollywood, of course, which you have in your wonderful country of India. Being close to Los Angeles, I have participated in many events there on communication and production and things like that. So one of the things I learned when I was writing about camels and getting close to the point of writing and publishing my new book, Camel Crazy, I was at a conference where it was about science communication. And one of the speakers is a very, very well-known person who has written a lot of television shows that explain medicine and science, and they're very popular here in the United States. And he said, you cannot tell a science story without making it about a story. You need to have a story in it because the vast majority of people aren't really that able to understand science unless it's put in the context of their life or a story. So part of what I do is kind of show why the wonderful things that we are hearing here tonight and that you'll see in my presentation actually why they seem science and sort of niche to science. Nonetheless, they're very important to us all. So therefore, I'm going to try to wrap a little bit of this knowledge in a big story about biological diversity and biodiversity and why camels and animals similar to their value in livestock and wildlife as well are so important to our survival. So let's start with the Convention on Biological Diversity. We know that many endangered species are surviving in zoos and botanical gardens now, but those are not sustainable to preserve these key ecosystems that have been so much a part of our healthy world, which is now being challenged by all kinds of problems. So these species and ecosystems, they need freedom to evolve in their natural conditions in order to thrive and remain alive, remain sustainable. So economic policies should create financial resources for those who would otherwise damage and exploit those resources. So I think one of the examples could be our wonderful pastoralists in India are facing all kinds of challenges with maintaining their camels, as we know, and we'll discuss further. So we would like to be able to create financial resources for them so that they don't have to give their camels away, let them go to run wild and cause problems in some villages, or unfortunately, sometimes they are sold for meat when we would rather have them here performing their ship of the desert mechanisms, tourism, and dairy and other things that we'll talk about in a minute. So that's kind of an example that we're talking about. You have to incentivize the people that maintain these important biodiversity conventions so that they don't end up having to cannibalize them just to survive. So the former United Nations chief, Ban Ki-moon, says the world is facing multiple crises, and that's not a surprise to any of us. He thinks we have about 10 years to act. And it is recognized that traditional methods can help sustain biodiverse life. And so in this case, people that are indigenous in these populations, in these places where they maintain the genetic legacies of our biodiverse resources, are very, very important to us. So indigenous people are only 4 to 5% of the world population, but they live in places that contain the majority of the world's biodiverse resources, such as, say, the Amazon rainforest is one example of that. And then traditional healing, we know, can be the key to medicine. Pharmaceuticals are actually sourced from biodiverse plants and animals. And so these gene banks, people that kind of take care of these traditional plants and animals in the jungles and the mountains and the hills and the deserts of our world, they are key to human and animal health. Sadly, though, they are so neglected for a lot of different reasons these days, mostly industrial and corporate interests. But pastoral livestock, they are very, very important. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and especially the camel. So that's so important because they uptake the nutrients that they need and that they're designed to need from the environment that surrounds them, and they produce food directly. So there's less harmful processing, things like cow lots and processing giant meat plants and things that damage the environment. And there's local sustainability, which also contributes to soil health. And while we won't talk about that tonight, that is actually kind of an important issue these days, soil health. Okay, where did my cursor go? There it is. Okay, so pastoralists and rangelands are important to the world. 54% of the world is rangelands per the Rangelands Atlas database. Rangelands are home to many nomadic and pastoral livestock keepers, and these people are often underrated. People neglect them, ignore them, take them for granted, but they're out there and they're struggling these days. And we really need to recognize their importance. And I do see, since I've been doing this since 2005, I've been involved with camels and camel milk. And so I do see where previously people were never talking about nomadic and pastoral livestock keepers. And now I've noticed, even though it's kind of coming from more the international fringe areas outside of mainstream kind of talk on the environment, it is growing bigger. So I do see that we're making progress in at least introducing these issues into the mainstream talk. And that needs to, of course, continue. So rangelands, these biodiverse resources, they can be exploited or they can experience desertification if they're not properly managed. Luckily, there have been a few new efforts on rangelands, atlases, and mapping and things like that. Now, why do I care so much about these pastoralist traditions? And this is part of where the story comes in. I care not only because now that I know about them, I think I care a lot about them and everybody should, but I care mainly in the beginning, before I knew about them so much, is because I was trying to help my son. My son had autism, and so I had done a lot of things to help him. I dropped my career working in aerospace and the Pentagon and places like that when my son was diagnosed with autism. And I did a lot of things to help him. And then I wrote my first book, A Real Boy, which was mentioned during the introduction. And I learned then that if I took cow milk and other animal milks out of his diet and I lowered his sugar intake and I did other things to stabilize his immune function, he improved greatly and his symptoms of autism decreased. And so at that time, I had already done that. But then after my first book came out, I happened to be at a children's book festival in California, and I saw a camel there. And I really didn't know anything about camels at the time, but I went over and talked to the person that had that camel. He had Middle Eastern roots. That was one of the reasons why he was interested in camels, because he had experience with them in another country. And after talking to him, I had the idea that the milk might help my son's autism symptoms, because he said it was close to human breast milk and it may be non-allergenic, and it was given to premature infants in hospitals in the Middle East. So that gave me an idea that it might help my son's autism symptoms and be a great non-allergenic dairy substitute for people that cannot have other milks. So I had to struggle a lot, and the only place I could find camel milk was in the Middle East, and I had to fly in frozen milk from the desert from those pastoral people. And so my son was having a lot of problems due to autism, but at that time, no one knew about camel milk's health benefits for autism, but they did know that the camel milk was a healthy milk, the pastoralist people, nomadic people, but no one in the United States knew anything like that I had ever heard of. And by the way, the picture is me after I flew in a lot of frozen milk into Los Angeles airport. It had to travel very, very far. And so I thought you'd enjoy seeing that picture of what frozen milk looked like after it had traveled for about 25 hours. So after I got that milk in, this is my son. I gave him half a cup of milk with cereal at bedtime. That's 4 ounces. And so that's what about, if you do milliliters, it's about 120 milliliters. So the next morning he was incredibly different. He had better speech, eye contact, emotion, and much more complex conversations. He said things like, "I love you. You do so much for me. You're really great. You make my food, you make my medicine. Who's taking me to school? Who's picking me up?" All these great things he did, and he ate more neatly and all these kind of things. So within 3 days, he could start crossing a parking lot alone and look both ways when he was crossing the street. And these behavior breakdowns he had stopped. So things continued to be amazing with the camel milk. He was able to leave his ADHD school, go back to public school. His speech improved greatly, and the milk worked systemically in his body. He had white bumps on his cheeks and they faded. They were behind his arms. And you'll see those in children with autism. Sometimes they'll have dark circles under their eyes. They'll have skin issues, however subtle, but we can see them once we know what we're looking for. And so when he would get foods that would cause him to, quote, act autistic, such as milk powder and cow milk, would have him sometimes hand flap and toe walk and walk in circles. And so when those things would happen, however rare, I would give him camel milk, and within 15 minutes, that behavior would stop. So overall, he had about a 30% improvement in autism symptoms. So at that time also, after a few years, I didn't have to fly in the camel milk anymore. I actually got it from people in America, and I gave it to my son, and it worked the same way. So that was a very important point. My son was probably the first patient to ever take camel milk from 2 different parts of the world. And so back then we kind of thought, well, maybe it's the breed, maybe it's the magic herbs they were eating in the desert. Maybe it's just, something special about that camel in the Middle East. But then my son showed that it was actually the camel itself that was kind of the delivery platform for the milk, even though I had a very different diet over here in America. So that's when I wrote an article, my first article that went viral, and it kicked off a new interest in camel milk across the world, and it started inspiring the industry to grow. So then I was asked to write a medical journal article. So I wrote a case report describing everything about my son, reviewed by physicians and things like that. It's peer reviewed, and it's now been cited about 14 times. So that got the interest of the scientists. So we're going to see a film after I finish speaking, and we're going to talk about children and autism and camel milk and camels. So just as a quick little hint here, these are 2 children that we see them before and after they had camel milk. The child on the left here, he used to be kind of lost in his own world. And that's a phrase you'll often hear about children with autism. He was watching Teletubbies here and just, repetitive TV watching. That's a thing that's very common with these kids, or on their iPads or phones. He was eating and got his headphones on and just in his own world. And then later, after the camel milk, he became more engaged. He actually, his learning increased. He also, like here you can see him, he was jumping on a trampoline, and you can see him smiling. You can see him looking his parents, you can see him actively engaged. The second one is very compelling. This little child right here. You will notice on his head, there are bruises from banging his head against the wall and the cabinets. And head banging is something that we see in autism. It can be very bad, and it can be part of what they call self-injurious behavior. So this little child also, you can see that he has all kinds of inflammation and allergic response because of the shiners, they call them allergy shiners under his eyes. You see how that pink and dark inflammation around his eyes, and his lips are kind of puffy too. And look at that, no eye contact, totally glazed and remote. His improvement was amazing. This child was breaking down like 4 to 5 times a day, smashing his head against cabinets, had a helmet on to prevent the bruises. He couldn't learn anything. He couldn't talk. After he got Camel milk, look, his skin cleared up. You can see him. He's got that social smile. He's looking, no more bruises. And his language, quote, in the words of his mother, just exploded on Camel milk. So I think we'll learn more. We'll see a little bit more of these in the film later. So we're going to try to move quickly because it's been a long conference so far, but we'll just kind of speed through some things. But basically, autism is rising globally, and the need for camel milk will increase. It's very, very still a niche topic, but once people find out about it, then they're like, how come we don't use this more? Those things are because camels are on the outside of mainstream society in some ways, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is current news. Professor in the medical school in New Jersey, who's done a study, says it feels like science fiction to say that 7% of our 8-year-olds in one school district in New Jersey and 5% of 8-year-old boys statewide have autism. He says that's shocking, but in reality, this is true and it cannot be explained. I do discuss some of the reasons why behind this in the book Camel Crazy. Usually it is kind of corresponds to increasing industrialization, sometimes medical procedures, sometimes exposures to pesticide power plants, things like that. But we'll talk about that another time. But natural therapies are more attractive to parents of autistic children than medications. A lot of children do end up on medications and a lot of adults do, but they really prefer natural therapies, and camel milk is one. And of course, we have other inflammation related disorders also rising in society: diabetes type 1 and 2, ADD, food allergies, gastrointestinal issues. And I have a whole list of these conditions and more in the book that explain what conditions can camel milk work for and how much to use. So camels led me as just a regular American parent to a greater awareness of biodiversity. So I'm always grateful for that. I started going all around the country. I went to the Middle East, I went to India, and I interviewed all these cameleers and talked to all these traditional people. I introduced them to others. We built a network, and I visited and reported on camels, which are usually in remote locations. Here I'm on one, but that's in California, not too far from me. So, and then I wrote an article in India about that law that is really a problem, and I hope that someday we'll get that changed. As you're probably aware of, in 2015, a law was passed that camels cannot be sold outside of Rajasthan, made it the state animal, but that ended up backfiring, and it's a real problem, but we hope it changes. But now, of course, we have this global community, which is getting stronger every day, that recognizes the value of camel milk. So while I'm writing and advising scientists, vets, doctors, farmers, parents, people like that, cultural and health communities, I visit farms, and I deal with all countries, and I do science editing as well. I'm just happy to report that the camel milk is really helping a lot of people. Thousands and thousands and thousands of families are using it now, and some adults with autism and adults with other medical conditions. One of the great things about camel milk in the autism community is it brings out the fathers. It's hard for fathers to really get involved in autism. Sometimes it hurts their pride a lot. It's very hard for them to even accept the child has a problem, let alone autism, but they like camel milk. It feels like something to just reach out easily and just do. And so that's a very positive thing. So the milk brings the camel community into contact with people outside the camel community, and it helps lift awareness of camels. And female veterinarians, and all veterinarians, but female veterinarians in particular, in the beginning, were really at the forefront of this camel milk and pastoralist movement. This is Dr. Ilse Koller-Rolfsen. She is in India. She's with LPPS and, of course, Camel Charisma Dairy. She's a total expert on what's going on. So I would suggest that you get in touch with her if you have any questions about things that she says you can do to lift the dairy industry. So these things are outside the mainstream still, even though they're really starting to penetrate into the health community. So why are pastoralist products and knowledge outside the mainstream? Well, traditional livestock knowledge is held by rural cultures, and they usually have low visibility. And today's world doesn't value this traditional knowledge like, in my opinion, it should. Sure, there are things like old wives' tales and things like that, but there's also a great deal of knowledge that is very relevant to us that just gets lost because it's not peer-reviewed, produced in a lab, funded by a grant, things like that. So pastoralists are often on the move and they're not connected to settled areas. They can also be very conservative and insular societies, such as we've seen the Rika in India, and then in our own country in America, the Amish people. They are a very conservative religious group, but they actually are some of our best camel milkers these days. So products are now emerging, and they're becoming more and more kind of fancy packaged and marketed on Instagram and things like that. When I first started, you saw products like the picture you see here. This is when I visited an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. So you have your bottle of camel milk and the red cap. Then you have CY for camel yogurt. You have CK for camel kefir, which is fermented. And so, of course, could have some of that increased value that we heard about earlier. And then, of course, you have your camel soap, and lotions are out there, but I didn't see any Amish people producing lotion. So these pastoralists sometimes face steep odds of survival. They are literally clinging to their animals and their survivability right now. So we need to increase their value to market, society, and preserve their land access. So one example of how this is happening on a global scale is, this is very exciting for us camel people. 2024 has been declared the International Year of Camelids. And so that includes the whole camel genetic family. So the UN wants to raise public awareness of them for food security, ecosystems, all those things we talked about, the consumption of goods to help eradicate hunger and keep these communities afloat. And the International Camel Organization of Saudi Arabia, that's called ICO, they're also kind of ramping up lately, and they have been part of helping here in America us form an organization called NACROA, which is a North American Camel Ranch Owners Association. So we're starting to kind of get a little more organized here too. Then there's also World Milk Day, World Donkey Day, and World Camel Day, and other opportunities to raise biodiversity awareness. So some of these ways, as we saw a little bit earlier in the other presentation, which I'll keep it simple here, science, human health, food, entertainment, textiles, and crafts. There I am in Dubai looking at some camel embryo development being put into artificial insemination being put into the camel. And then to the right is our India's very own Magan Raika, who really does his best to work with camels every day. Sometimes he has to take other jobs on, but he would prefer to be in his village in Sadri working with his beloved camels. And I would prefer they be there too, serving the rest of us with their wonderful milk and sustaining their valuable lifestyle, which they really cherish. So camel milk is a small but growing health foods industry. It's a potential $10.2 billion industry over the next 10 years, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. They're the second fastest growing herbivorous livestock animal. Demand is rising mainly due to autism and other health consumers, plus the Muslim meat and milk market. Most governments still don't really support anything to do with camels, but luckily we have a few exceptions to that. And we would like to see more, of course. When I first started this in 2005, I began, when I first had my idea. And then later, there were only a few world camel dairies and then little tiny ones here and there. Now we're having a lot more around the world. Pakistan is growing with their camel market. Malaysia is growing, like all these places. And so 3 million tons of camel milk was officially sold, but 70% of camel milk is consumed by the owners and never reaches the market. And when I'm talking about Malaysia, I'm thinking one of the kind of problems of success is that fake and adulterated milk is starting to appear. So Malaysia, be a little careful, because some of the products we're seeing there may be mixed with other milk, which we don't want as a health consumer, because you've already heard that cow milk and other milks like that are not good for people with autism. Not all, but a great many people with autism don't do well on them. Saudi Arabia is a top market, and more studies are emerging. And so to the right, that was a camel milking competition in Dubai I attended. And so they demonstrate the scientific value of biodiversity, camels do. They are unique. They have special properties. I discuss all of that in my book, Camel Crazy, but for today's purposes, they're very unique. They have oval blood cells, which can squeeze down and dehydrate. We're in those hot environments in the desert, and then they can rehydrate very, very quickly, swelling to many times their size as they refill with water when the camel drinks again. And that kind of thing could kill a normal animal, but camels are designed to be able to live like that and survive. Of course, they have an amazing antibodies and immunoglobulins, and their IgGs resist pathogens. And they're kind of like the shark in that they only have heavy chain antibodies, not light and heavy like most species. And so they are being used for a lot of different things. They're a platform for vaccines and immunotherapy, antiviral therapy, and it looks like now they're coming up with ways to neutralize the beta coronaviruses. So one new study is that MERS-exposed camels may have possible application to COVID therapy use. Oh, and by the way, the graphic to the right is when my book came out, there's a geneticist, she actually reviewed the book, and she wanted to know what are the genetics in the camel that make the milk effective for autism. And she went back and did that genetic tracing on the camel and wrote an article about it. So it's pretty fantastic. So we'll skip over this in the interest of time, but basically we've seen lately that camel lids, were so important, and camels being one of them. But for this particular application, a drop of blood was taken from a llama. A few of them, the antibodies were shown to bind weakly to the virus, and that, of course, virus being the coronavirus. The research team engineered those weakly binding antibodies, and they created new nanobodies that bind very tightly, and they bind to the coronavirus spike and they block it. So where the people that did this research are hoping that those nanobodies can be made into an aerosol and inhaled, so that, like, say you get up in the morning, you inhale your protective inhalant, your nanobodies, and then you go out and you can't get COVID. Like, that would be great, right? They're looking for funding, so let's hope that they get it. So as we know from the other presentation, but also I talk about this regularly, these traditional foods, not just camel milk, but a lot of these kind of foods could be functional or therapeutic medicine foods. So we've already looked at some of those in my colleague's prior presentation, but basically they can positively impact gut bacteria, which we now know is linked to brain health. We've known this in the autism world for a while, but they're way behind us, but they're always adapting what we start out with. So one of those is the gut-brain the gut-brain connection, and how bacteria in your microbiome can actually affect your brain health and your functioning. And aging well is one of those as well. And thanks to Dr. Ilsa, we know that 80% of camel milk from India's Camel Charisma, which is her operation, is sold to the parents of autistic children. And then some of it lately has been used for tuberculosis patients as well. And these camels feed on 36 Ayurvedic plants, which are thought to really enhance that milk. And I've tried that milk myself, and it's fantastic. So I'm just glad that 80% of the milk is going to the families that I care deeply about. Okay, so, and here's a new report that I'm giving. I haven't published it or anything, but I'm putting it here. So this is a new diabetes patient report. This is Rena Solomon. She lives in California, fairly close to me. She's well known as the angel in a Hummer because she goes and helps rescue people in disasters in her big Hummer vehicle. So she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she was put on these drugs, metformin, Trulicity, and then insulin. The Trulicity made her feel very sick. So she thought, I'll try camel milk. So she tried the frozen, but it didn't help enough. She actually went and bought camels so she could try the fresh raw milk. She took 16 ounces a day for 6 months. She was able to stop her insulin and stop the Trulicity. And her A1C dropped to 5.5 on camel milk and metformin. And her blood sugar drops under 100 after she gets fresh camel milk. And the pain in her hands also stopped. And that's kind of a clue that she may have a little bit more inflammation going on through her body, perhaps some kind of rheumatoid type effect. But she really needs that fresh, raw camel milk. And I've been to her farm and she's trying to increase her camels there. So one of the other ways we can increase the value of pastoralists and nomadic people to the market out in that larger world is through traditional fabrics and handicrafts. So here's Netha Raika, who is a cameleer from India. He is kind of outside of Jodhpur in his village. He's holding these beautiful camel blankets that the women, that he says the older women make these, and it's a lost art, and they're still sewing these, and there's a slit in the middle to go across the camel's hump. And they're very valuable, beautiful, but he says they need younger women or younger people to learn how to do that. So that's a struggle they're facing. So I hope we can keep that beautiful handiwork going. And then you see other things like this. And then of course, I bought myself some sheep scarves from Bikaner. So this is a great store. Ashok had a store at your very own Camel Research Center. Unfortunately, he had to shut down during COVID, but he's up and running again. And I love these scarves, and you can order them dyed in the colors that you want at a very reasonable price, and the shipping was easy. So I'm thinking that if he can keep going with this and develop camel products camel hair products as he is, that we can go somewhere with this if we can support businesses like his. So as my colleagues talked about, entertainment is one way, racing, fairs, festivals, milking contests, tourism, rides, treks, time with animals. People are starved for time with animals and they don't even know it. So a lot of people have never been around a large animal like a camel, a horse, a cow, things like that. And I've seen out here, there's a farm near me that has a program called Hands-on Camels. And suburban women from just the houses around, in these nice houses where they don't have like farms or anything, they pay good money to come out, spend time with the camels, brush them, comb them, lead them around, ride them. So that's one possibility. And also this is a trek in Texas from someone that I know. So of course, we believe probably here in this audience that this nomadic and pastoral wisdom is valuable and worth saving, but it's a tough mission to get outside people to pay any attention to nomadic or pastoral people. I have done close to 200 media and events since my book came out, and I'm always talking about nomadic and pastoral people. I don't get many questions about them per se, but I bring them up because I want people to know about them. So I'm glad to see that people are talking about them more. We have to remember that livestock has been the backbone of society, and camels and cattle have formed the wealth status and trading abilities of many cultures, and their lifestyles can benefit us all. And they're not destructive on the landscape as much as people think they are when they are properly managed. They're actually beneficial. So here is the Lahaween tribe on the move after the rainy season in Sudan. And you can see the little house on top of the camel is for women and children to ride along. So Sudanese camels who graze on rich natural pasture have improved omega-3s in their milk, and they offer human health benefits per a recent study. And animal-soil interaction and droppings can improve the habitat of smaller species by spreading seed, spreading fertilizer, probably distributing the microbiome of these animals to interact with the soil. These are the things that we need to keep up, even though it's becoming a struggle. So in my country, we have Amish people. They're the traditional religious folks, and they kind of similar to pastoralists in other countries in some ways because they like to live away from the culture. They have their own strong value system, and they love to live off animals in the farm when they can. And so this is one of our best American farmers. His name is Marlon Troyer and Savannah Troyer, and they have a lot of camels now, and they have terrific milk. And then, of course, this is my friend Sidi Amar. He's a Tuareg from Niger, and he came here years ago. He trains camels here. He's lived here for many years. He's a very intelligent man. He's exemplifies the great traits of nomadic life. He can sleep anywhere. He can adjust to any group of people, and he understands animals just by looking in their eye or their crook of their neck or things like that. He just can read them like no one. And he says, if I knew then what I know now, I would be a nomad back home raising my camels. Everyone can benefit from pastoralist ways. Societies are healthier when you have outdoor interaction. There's a thing called forest bathing that actually shows the benefits to humans in a study when you're just going out and spending time in the forest. It increases our immune function, and I believe teaching children to be comfortable with nature by planting, touching raw foods, dirt and soil, getting away from the Wi-Fi and the computers. It's better for them, it's better for their vision, it's better for their microbiome, it's better for their allergic response, and I think it's good for their personality to learn to engage with the real things around us and not just have everything so clean and based on online stuff. So, and I believe this also increases their skills and their self-sufficiency. And engaging with people from other ways of life will strengthen our world and help create courtesy and respect. And we need to schedule these opportunities for ourselves and our families, otherwise they're not going to happen. So as I said, the forest bathing increases the human killer cells. It has documented anti-cancer and calming effects in males and females. And one session lasted 7 days in the study. Nomadic children had better health than settled children in one northern Kenya study. And this fine fellow here that we're seeing is Salad Samatir. He is a Somali elder. He lives in San Diego, and I feature him and other Somali seniors in the Camel Crazy book. I've spent time with them. These gentlemen and older woman said they had never seen children in their country who could not learn or sit still or listen. That means they did not see disabilities. I mean, I asked them, they didn't see people who fit the mold of disabilities there as far as, you know, the intellectual disabilities like we see with autism, ADHD, things like that. They retain the wisdom of a pastoral way of life. And to me, they constitute a human genetic legacy. If we as a society could utilize their knowledge and, you know, kind of create a value to it, and have people emulate it by living in the forest or the jungles on camel milk, such as the way these guys grew up. They would go out and graze with their camels for a whole year and live off of camel milk. And they're still so strong. They feel it benefited them tremendously. If we could do that and at least offer little sessions of that, maybe not a whole year in the jungle, but a little session of that for people and monetize that, then people could benefit in a lot of different ways. So we know pastoralists need help. It's a tough scene out there, especially in India. The good part is they're rising everywhere. Camels' interest is rising almost everywhere while they're dropping precipitously in India. My colleague discussed that, so I won't go into that. But you know, this loss of grazing access also increases their illness. It weakens them, and mange and other diseases like that increase. And the milk regulations can be burdensome on these kind of people. And now we also need to give them a COVID outreach and vaccines and support and things like that. So I received these today. The camel milk company, Advik Foods in India, who I have had their products several times for over a few years now. I've had their chocolate, I've had their different milk, and they made these nice posters. Support camels on this Camel Day, and they talk about the population, how quickly they've dropped. And I think it's nice to see that a simple graphic like this with a little bit of information on it, these are the kind of things that I'd like to see on billboards, on magazines. You know, if you're having a festival, maybe put out some flyers or put it up on a screen. Stuff like that would be wonderful. And don't forget, of course, since you're all, a lot of you are university students and are studying biology and life sciences and things like that, I figured you should be encouraged to know that the veterinary care for camels, the need for that is on the rise. So in America, we're definitely having some more need for camel care, but in India, we still need camel care. It's going to be tough when the population is dropping, but if we can keep the dairy industry stronger, then of course, maybe there'll be a career path in treating camels in India as well. So we know they need peace and development. This is a Somali camel with the politicians of the country to the right. They have a symbolic camel. It's so important to them. And to the lower right, we see the Marwar Camel Festival in India, and there's Dr. Ilsa and some other folks one I see from the Bikaner Research Center, I think on the left. These are things we need to remember. Livestock can bring parts of society together. As we see in the milk, it's bringing the autism community and parents out from the cities literally to come and learn about camels and get milk. The market value of camels could theoretically create allies in some of these troubled areas. Like I'm talking about in Africa right now, when the pastoralists and the herders come through certain villages or certain areas, there's often clashes, or sometimes they can fight with each other. So if you use mediation and some technologies such as tracking pastoralists and tracking things like that, and giving information on, who's in what area at what time, it can help some of those disputes, which can be very deadly. And they're often characterized as religious violence, but really they're often about, tribal and grazing disputes. And as my colleague said earlier, camels take less feed and water, good for the climate. I personally, from where I come from, I think it's really important that we keep the opportunity to cross borders and cross cultures to help children and sick people. I would love to see creating safe zones for camels all around the world. I know it's a pipe dream, but I think it would be fantastic because the camel has great symbology among Muslim cultures. They know that it's very special. It's mentioned in the Quran. They have a reverence for it. I feel like the camel is a great vehicle for creating more peace and awareness. And I'd like people to remember the nomadic tradition of giving it to the sick for free. In many countries, the camel milk was given to sick people for free as a good deed. And that also crosses often religions. And so I would like to see governments supporting these families by giving away the milk, or at least underwriting it and making it affordable. I'd like to see more early stage science funding for pastoral resources. And then, for example, Dr. Ilse at LPPS, she has a new mapping project for pastoralists. So get in touch with her if you want to see that. Mongolia, this has a great example of what they're doing in rangelands. They have very wide, intact rangelands, and they have a great variety of livestock. To the right, you can see yak, cattle, camels, and they have the two-hump Bactrian camels, which are great dairy resources. They have horses, sheep, goat, reindeer. So they have been working on this for a while. They have a project called Green Gold, and they have worked on fashion, textiles, products for the international market. They now have identified 21 herder groups and a code of practices, and they have a tracking system called Responsible Nomads. So it standardizes the steps on how to sustain what they're doing. And they have a rangelands database mapping site, and that helps protect wildlife habitats and rare plants. When they're incentivized and tracked and shared so they know what they're doing and what they should do, it helps them live responsibly. And going back to our earlier, when we opened this presentation, talking about how people can damage the environment if they don't have an alternative to making it valuable, this is what we're doing. Well, I'm not doing it, but this is what they're doing to make it valuable to the people that are living there. And this is increasing household and female income. And that whole issue about getting female income rising due to dairy products, that is kind of common in camel cultures. Oftentimes in these camel cultures, the females manage the livestock and manage the camels, and the money goes to them, and they can use it for things that are important to women, and then also especially education of girls. So just to kind of start to wrap up, in my very own neck of the woods, we have camels on farms here, but not very many. But we do have wildlife, and this is a suburban biodiversity example. We have a lot of freeways and highways here. And so it cuts off those habitats, cuts them in pieces, makes it hard for wildlife to go from one to the other. And so when you just have these smaller habitats, it creates a monoculture, and diseases can spread easily there, and fertility problems and birth defects in the wildlife. So this is the big 17-lane highway, and there's a big dark tunnel underneath it, and it gets blocked up, and the animals hate to cross it. And we have bobcats here, and we have coyotes and things like that. So they're going to modify this. So they're going to put night lighting, and they're going to put logs and rocks for shelter, and it's going to connect 2 wildlife reservoirs that were cut off. And so this goal of connectivity that we have will let mountain lions and bobcats and other animals travel safely through there. and it will create a new bobcat generation every 5 years if we're successful. And mountain lions, they're seen south of me in some of the more less chopped up kind of parts of my county, which is Orange County, California. But they haven't been seen right around here in about 20 years, but they do feel that this will help the mountain lions return. So the next generation needs exposure to this great information about camels and biodiversity. So here in America, we have one of our great supporters of the camel movement. Debbie is her name, and she has Truman the camel, and she takes Truman out to meet children and to teach them about camels. And of course, the camel on the right is wearing one of the camel blankets from Rajasthan, which we got from some of the people that sell them there. And so the children are delighted by it. The adults learn some things. And then this was used to raise money. She and I actually were raising money for a child with autism who is also deaf in Pakistan. And so this helped us raise money, and we were able to give that money to the child so she can get testing and perhaps hearing aids. So things are getting a little better since I began in 2005. Now thousands of families across the world are using camel milk. The research is continuing. New companies are distributing it in many countries, and my dream of universal access to camel milk is slowly coming true. We have a ways to go, but we're doing much better. And that's me on the right. The first time I ever saw camel milk for sale in the United States in a grocery store, instead of me having to fly it in from other countries or get it from a farm, and that was in San Francisco. So that was quite the happy day. And here I am on the left with an esteemed scientist in Egypt. She's in Egypt. She's from Egypt. We were in Berlin speaking at a keynote event that I was doing with Dr. T.K. Galat, your very own famous camel scientist and surgeon. And I might remind you that you have the greatest repository of camel research and literature coming out of there. He publishes a wonderful journal that he has for many years. And in the middle, there's a recent article that we did in Kenya for World Milk Day. That's another one of those great times you can promote camel milk. And then there's an article featuring the things I'm talking about in the Rajasthan Patrika. So the book that I wrote is pretty new. It describes the entire journey. It describes all about camels. It features the pastoralists, the people, the milk sellers that I'm talking about, explains all about camels, but it's all in a fun story and has pictures, and it has 4 chapters set in India too. And so my goal was to really share the story of the pastoralists, the nomads, and give them their own voice and their own words. And then of course, share why camel milk is so important and how it really changed our lives and saved my son's life in a lot of different ways. And then also in the very back, it has a user's guide. How much do I give for what disease condition? How long do I give it? Does it have to be pasteurized, raw, frozen? How do I get my child to take it? How do I prepare? And a global list of sellers. So anybody that wants to know about camel milk is going to find pretty much what they need in there. And then chapter 15 is a science section for those of you who want to know about all the qualities in camel milk, why it works the way it does. It's all going to be there for you. So let's keep this talk going. You can, of course, order Camel Crazy from any bookstore or online. The Hump Group in the UK sells it, and Advic Foods in India actually carries the book. And then, of course, I hope you'll take a picture and follow me on social media so I can look at what you're doing as well. I really appreciate that. So that's the end of the presentation. And then we're going to move on into sharing one little short video clip, and then we'll talk about, we'll share the actual film that we're going to show, which isn't that long. So stay with us.
Thanks a lot, Christina. Speechless, fantastic, excellent, whatever I can say. I would like to comment a lot on this, but because of time restrictions, because at 10:45 it will end up and we are having another meeting at 10:50. But even then I cannot stop by saying one line, that researchers who narrate the stories survives for others, and overall they sustain the mother nature. They help to sustain the mother nature. You are doing wonderful job, and we would definitely like that you should visit India and must come to Bikaner. Dungar College will definitely wait for you, and we will extend all the mm, lodging, boarding facilities, whatever is required in Bikaner to you, definitely. And NRCC is also there, and definitely you would love to see the NRCC. Because of time restriction, I would like to tell you that we were having two films prepared by Abdul Shahid and directed by Abdul Shahid and produced by Green Chemistry Research Center, Govt Dungar College, Bikaner. Uh, I think we are having time to show one movie which is prepared on your topic and with the help of yours. That is camel milk and autism. So we will show that, and other that is on camel and diabetes, which have already been screened in India International Science Film Festival. We will put it in on our website. So now, without wasting time, I request Abdul Shahid, I invite rather Abdul Shahid to say a few words and start your movie. Then we are also having the quiz result. Meantime, one thing I would like to tell you that for all participants, the quiz has been closed and results are submitted to Christina. That is, Christina is in your chat box. After 5 minutes, when we'll be having the validity session, I would like that you should announce, and you will be happy to know that there were more than 100 participants and more than 15 have answered correctly. So we will have to give the certificate to all of them, and you will have to spell a lot. So now I request Abdul Shahid, who is the recipient of Special Jury Award, India International Science Film Festival, on one of the film produced by GCRC and BIRC. I request Abdul, please.
Thank you, sir. I am Abdul Shahid and I am a science filmmaker. Today I am presenting science film. The topic is Autism and Camel Milk, directed by me and produced by GCRC Government Dungar College, Bikaner. It's my pleasure to work with Christina Adam ma'am. This is a documentary, and I am heartily thankful to ma'am to giving us your precious time. Please have a look.
Hello, I'm Christina Adams. I'm the author of 2 books, A Real Boy and Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious World of Camels. I'm an American journalist, author, and speaker, and I've been researching autism and camel milk for quite a long time. When I had the idea that camel milk would help my son's autism symptoms, I had to fly it in from Bedouins in the desert that lived with camels. I gave my son the milk and he got so much better overnight. Ever since then, I've been researching camel milk, camels, and making progress in forwarding the science and understanding of the milk. Camel milk has been used for centuries to help human health. That is not new knowledge. However, no one had ever had the idea that it would help autism. Autism is a relatively new disorder. There have always been cases of it. However, the recent rise in the cases globally is because of some of the genetics of people that were not going to be affected before, what you would call subclinical aspect of having perhaps a propensity to develop autism, were activated by what's happening in the environment around us. So we know there are many things in the environment now due to some pollution, some pesticides, things like that can impact our immune function. And our immune function can help influence whether we develop a variety of diseases, and among those is autism. So the thing that camel milk helps with is to enhance that gut-brain connection. Camel milk contains immunoglobulins, enzymes, an insulin-like protein, GABA, which is thought to have a calming effect on neurotransmitters, and of course some incredible vitamins. Well, there are many, many benefits to being on the autism spectrum, as they are shown to be more intelligent than the average person when they're tested properly. There are also some comorbid issues that means it can really cause some problems for people. So while we don't want to change people with autism because they're wonderful, we do want to help them live their best lives and be as healthy as they can. And that's where a diet full of healthy nutrition and camel milk can be a big part of that, can come into play. Most people are just fine with drinking cow milk and goat milk and other types of animal milk. However, there are some people on the autism spectrum and some other disorders that have a real problem with the casein in cow milk. And not all the species of cow, but some of the kinds that we have here in the United States known as A1. So those forms of casein can often irritate and cause issues like hand flapping, staring, toe walking, lack of exploring surroundings, those things we see in the autism spectrum at times. So it is best if you remove all the other animal caseins and milk products, and then you add the camel milk, so that way it doesn't impede the progress of the camel milk to do the healing that it can do. In my work with camel milk, I have visited many countries. I have visited Rajasthan 2 times and spent a lot of time there. India has a wonderful camel culture, and some of the people like the Raika and other groups are taking care of camels for many, many hundreds of years now. So it's very important that we try to support their work because they are the keepers of camels in Rajasthan and in India, and we really need the benefits that the camels can offer to the human population. And of course, we also want the camels to survive because they're important to the people that love them. Camel milk is a very, very healthy food. Just about anyone can drink it. So it is, in many ways, a beneficial food that can boost health, and it can help resolve some health conditions. It is not a substitute for seeing a doctor. When you have a medical problem, it's always important to seek medical help. However, we know now that diet really impacts many health conditions. So it's really good to start doing those measures at home, which may include camel milk. And then, of course, see a doctor if you need it, if you're ill. But sometimes camel milk can really help many conditions if taken on a regular basis, such as it has been shown in research in India and other places that for diabetes type 1 and 2, it actually can help lower blood sugar. Of course, that needs to be done properly with measuring any insulin that is taking and under the supervision of a doctor. Since camels are such a wonderful resource that very few people know about, it's really important to learn about them so that we can protect them. So camels need grazing room, they need support for their products to be brought to market. And so all those things are very important because not only are camels wonderful and they're very good for the environment, they also have a lot of benefits to offer us. People are looking at the nanobodies for use in treating COVID-19, and other uses for camels have included like developing a treatment for snake bite and some other things like that. So knowing about camels is very important, even though it may just seem like it's just a camel. It's actually quite an amazing animal. There are many studies now on camel milk, but when I first started doing this, there was almost no scientific information. So I started with my son, and I also spoke with a doctor who is a cancer researcher, and together we had ideas about camel milk, and then when we gave it to my son, he got a lot better. So ever since then, I've been exploring how camel milk is used around the world, and I've been writing about it. So I wrote an article called Got Camel Milk that went viral and helped set off the camel milk movement in industry around the world a few years ago. And then a year later, I wrote a medical journal article called Autism Spectrum Disorder Treated with Camel Milk. And that got the attention of scientists. So ever since then, there have been more studies. So my book, Camel Crazy, is designed to save you a lot of the work. I went through a lot of the studies. I also do speak to scientists on a regular basis and veterinarians. And so I have gathered that and put it in a very easy to read form that does not require a science education whatsoever. And of course, the book has a lot of stories about the wonderful camel cultures in Rajasthan. So I hope you will enjoy reading that. And in the back of Camel Crazy, there's also a guide on how to use camel milk. That's very common. What does it taste like? Where do I get it? How much do I give? How much do I give my child? Can I use it for this condition? So all those questions are answered for you in the back of Camel Crazy.
Thank you very much, Abdul. I'm happy to inform you that the second movie that is on camel milk and diabetes, in which a lot of research carried out by Dr. R.P. Agarwal and also from GCRC has been presented. Mainly the work carried out by Dr. Neeru Khiwani and Dr. H.S. Bhandari is presented in that movie. Because we are having now only 7 minutes, because on Zoom this is the limitation that it will end up, and we are also having another meeting at 10:50. So I request Abdul to upload it on the Dungar College YouTube channel later on, your both of the movies. And we are really thankful to Christina that you have spared a lot of time on this. Without wasting time, now I will request you to announce the names of winners of the quiz, which are available in your chat box, in your personal chat box. If you can find, you please announce the names. Dr. Sahu, I would like to inform you that more than 100 participants worldwide participated in that quiz, and you will be very happy to know that in the questions, two questions were from NRCC, two from Diabetes Research Center, two from the Krishna lecture, and more than 15 people have answered correctly. So, Krishna, I request you to announce these results.
Okay, this is a real honor, so I extend my congratulations and felicitations to the following: Dr. Shilpa Yadav, Newton Biswas, Dr. Sunita Swami, Dr. Govardhan Singh, Nista Yadav, Dr. Durga Devi, Dr. Sunil Bogya, Dr. Babita, Monica Ketarpal, Megha Tanvi, Dr. Mod Matan Ansari, Kajal Charan, Dr. Pawan Saini, Shrikant Vallabhaneni. I apologize for my struggle. I hope I'm doing all right. Krishnan Kumar, Anil Kumar Megwal, Prakash Garg, Ishvar Singh, Dr. Raja Purohit, Abhishek Puja.
Thank you very much, Christina, for doing this marvelous job for us, and we are really grateful to you. And now I request for the valedictory section, Dr. H.S. Bhandari to present a conclusive report on today's deliberations. I hope H.S. Bhandari is here, and he will present within very he know the time limitation, so he'll be doing. Yes, Bhandari.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Today on 22nd, we are celebrating World Camel Day, which is also known as Ship of Desert. On this occasion, World Camel Day, International Web Symposium on Camel and Disease Control is organized by BIRC, Government Dungar College, Bikaner. This is the first time when Web Symposium is organized under the theme Initiative for Research-Based Learning Excellence in Science and Technology. This program is being conducted on Zoom platform, and also live streaming is going on YouTube. In this Web Symposium, more than 350 participants got registered from different countries abroad as well as from India. In inaugural session, welcome address given by Dr. Rakesh Hars, Assistant Director, Regional Center College Education, Bikaner. Then, symposium was addressed by our guest of honor, Dr. R.P. Agarwal, ex-principal and controller, senior professor and HOD of medicine, SP Medical College, Bikaner. Sir, you have highlighted the various studies about use of camel milk in cure of diabetes, and also highlighted the community Raika for camel rearing. After this, Dr. S.K. Verma sir gave a brief introduction of BIRC, which is a group of researchers and academicians for the benefit of society and development of green technologies. Just after this, our chief guest of this web symposium, Dr. A. Sahu, Director ICAR National Research Center on Camel NRCC Bikaner, addressed the symposium. Dr. Sahu gave a presentation on importance of camel as camel a multi-utility animal and said for human being Raika community considered as Amrit. He told us about the various uses of camel in various fields: dairy, therapeutics, culture and sports, ecotourism, national security. He has also presented the mineral and vitamin analysis of camel milk, particularly in proteins, a benefit over cow milk. He also emphasized on hypoglycemic and antimicrobial effect of camel milk. Sir, you told us about the beauty of camel milk as camel milk products inspired by NRCC Bikaner, having unique taste and health benefits. Sir, you also pointed out some of the disease of camel as camel pox, brucellosis, atraxa, and told us that camel is a very much sensitive to skin disease. Thank you so much for your presentation, sir. In final part of inaugural session, Pattern and Principal Dr. G.P. Singh sir, Government Dungar College, addressed the session with presidential address and blessed it, and also emphasized on BIRC research on green plastic and working of wastewater treatment plants. Finally, for inaugural session, vote of thanks was given by Dr. N.K. Bojak, Dr. N. Bojak, and after this session, keynote speaker, our Christina Adams, Camel Milk Researchers Award-winning author and speaker, California, USA, introduced by Dr. N. Bojak. Madam, you have enlightened us on a global perspective of pastoralist value of biodiversity, and you told us a big story on biological diversities, emphasizing on endangered species survive in zoos and botanical gardens. You shared about your son's autism disease and how the camel milk helped him. So thank you, madam, for your keynote speak, Christina Adams, madam, for sharing your experience, knowledge, and benefits of camel milk. Then after a film by Abdul Shahid, a science filmmaker shown that is on camel and autism, produced by GCRC Government Dungar College, Bikaner. Sir, due to short of time, I have done it very quickly. So thank you so much for giving me the
Thank you
space
very much. I know
for this report.
Thank you, Dr. H.S. Bhandari ji. I know that things are very difficult today since morning. I would also like to tell that in Bikaner today there was a big power cutoff, and
Yes, right, sir.
without the power we are working. It was difficult. So now I finally invite Dr. G.P. Singh sir. They want to say something, and then the official vote of thanks will be given by our co-patron and vice principal, Dr. Anil Kumar Yadav sir. Sir, G.P. Singh, sir, you want to say something? Sir, Dr. G.P. Singh, sir.
Principal, sir, please unmute yourself, sir.
Because of great session,
yes,
they must be busy.
Now unmuted.
Yes, sir. Sir, please enlighten within specified time. We are having 4 minutes left now.
Okay, thank you, Bojak sir.
You wanted to say something about the, I requested you.
I congratulate the entire BIRC team for organizing a wonderful web symposium on the topic camel and associated diseases. So I wish the deliberations in the seminar will certainly will stimulate the minds of the young scientists, and definitely the deliberations by Christina Adams, A. Sahu, and RP Agrawal sir will certainly benefit the youngsters. So once again, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Without wasting time, I request Dr. A.K. Adar, sir, for official vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Bojak. Are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to you all. I deem it great pleasure to express vote of thanks in the validity function of International Web Symposium on Camel Disease and Control. First of all, I want to thank Almighty for making this program successful. My heartfelt thanks to Krishna Adams, USA, for his keynote address. I congratulate her on this Camel Day, who has raised hope that camel milk can be used for curing corona. I want to express my gratitude to Dr. R.P. Agrawal, ex-principal SP Medical College, who is working on diabetes control in human beings by carrying out research on Raika community by using camel milk. I extend my generous thanks to Dr. Sahu, Director, NRCC, for sharing useful information on the ship of the desert, the Camel. My warm thanks to Dr. G.P. Singh, Principal Dungar College, Bikaner, and Dr. Rakesh Hars, Chairperson, for encouraging and helping out in conducting the program. I owe special gratitude to Dr. N.K. Bojak, Coordinator and Founder of BIRC, and his team for constant efforts in making the program successful. Last but not least, I thank and appreciate all participants across the globe who are more than 350 and more than 100 participated in the quiz competition. I congratulate the winners. Indeed, it was a great effort for the development of mankind in desertic region whose survival depends on camel. I want to end the program by stating famous lines by distinguished poet Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. Once again, thank you all. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will end up within second. I really apologize, Christina. You have posted one clip of approximately one or 2 minutes. We could not able to run because of almost time over. So we will definitely show it on our website and we'll let you know. Thanks a lot to all of you for sparing such a wonderful time with us. And thank you.